All right, welcome to episode 2. That's Kerry, I'm Terry. We're going to start some work on the Model A today. We're going to start by, I think we're going to take the gas tank out. We've got a new piece that fills this. This whole upper area here is the gas tank. So I think we're going to remove it. We've got a new, this section and this section on order. Should have it by the end of the week. We've got a new cover that just covers this. And the big thing, the detriment to having the gas tank here is if you want to put air conditioning and a different dash in it, this is all the dash also. The dash panel in a Model A was part of the gas tank. So
once we yank it out, we'll show you kind of what it looks like underneath and stuff, so you can see how much room it actually does take up.
One thing before we get started, if you guys don't know the difference between Model A's, this is a 28-29 version. And if you look, the cowl sweeps down, kind of goes in on the sides. It's got a square where the door bolts on. It's a little bit different. This car, this body right here is actually a 30-31 body. We're going to spin this around so you can see it. Watch how easy this is to spin. This is on one of Summit's body carts. This thing's fantastic. It makes it so easy to roll a body around, and they're fairly inexpensive. So if you're looking for a way to roll the bodies around, you can see this really spins easy.
And the body stays on really well when you
try not to hit
cars.
the other cars. But if you look, you can tell on this cowl how it sweeps down. It curves in. This cowl is pretty much flat across the top. It's got a body line here, and it's pretty much flat down. It's completely different. This is a 30-31. That's the earlier 28-29 version. So that's one of the main differences in the Model A's. This one's probably actually, it looks a little bit narrower in the front. Both cars use the same floor. So that tells you there's not a lot of difference in the actual size of them. It's just more of an appearance look. So we'll get this one out of the way for now. Again, watch how nice and easy this thing rolls. Spin it over in the corner. Just push it up against the
40s.
Okay, we just put that other body in the back of the building, but while we're on moving stuff, just to show you guys real quick, last weekend we put this car on wheel dollies. So those of you that are looking to maybe move your car closest to the wall as you can get it for the winter to have it stored, these are great. They're inexpensive. They roll very, very easy. The car will move wherever you want it to go. This is a big benefit. It makes it a lot easier, especially when you get my age.
And it's even easy for like a single person to do. Like one person can move a car. But yeah, well worth the money, and it's a great product from Summit.
All right, well, maybe we should get some work done now and quit talking.
Yeah. You mean I should?
Yeah.
All right.
We're going to start taking the gas tank out. We did kind of cheat and loosen some of the screws, even though it seems still really tight. So my assistant actually did the screw removal, so we'll see here. Let's see what we can do. As you can see, there's holes all along the top of this, and there's brackets underneath. In fact, Kerry's grabbing a light here to help us see the bolts that go underneath. I don't know if you can see those, but there's bolts all along the perimeter. It goes all along the front edge on the outside, up here, and down both sides. So we're going to remove all these bolts, get these out of here, and hopefully, here when I was telling you originally about the dash being incorporated into the gas tank, this is pretty much all there was in a Model A. This was the fuel gauge. This is your on and off. This was an amp meter gauge. This was your speedometer and odometer, and that's pretty it. This was a dash light. So they were pretty basic. There wasn't a whole lot to them. So Of course, you only went 40 miles an hour, so it didn't make a whole lot of difference. You didn't need a bunch of gauges. So, as you can see there, Kerry's actually disconnecting the gas line. These were very basic automobiles. They were just a gravity feed gas tank. There was no fuel pump on these. That's a shut-off valve for the gas tank, so at night when you came home, you didn't want the gas draining down into the carburetor. You just shut that little valve off and you were all done. That gas line goes out through the firewall, and then it would go to a line that went down to the carburetor, and that would just gravity feed down there. So this is what happens with Kerry when he's already hurt himself.
That hurt really
You've
bad.
only been doing this 2 minutes.
Just broke my finger. If you notice, always double check how you're doing this, because if not, you'll break the tube right in half. But luckily, we aren't using this anymore.
And you can buy new ones. They're really,
Yeah.
Model A parts are usually fairly inexpensive, especially if you're going to restore a car.
Yeah, and I mean, we got a lot of the stuff here at Summit. So this thing's pretty sweet. These things are absolutely awesome.
The bar comes with actually 2 lights in it.
Yeah, and a charger.
And they're removable. You can take them out and use one individually like we do. And they've got 2 brightness levels.
So this is 1. That's 2.
Well, let's get this taken out of here.
All right.
I'm going to loosen. We've taken some of the bolts out of here. I'm going to need that crescent wrench, Kerry. Well, I think we've got all the bolts out now, so we'll make an attempt to take this out of here and get it out of our way. There we go.
It's like movie magic.
All
So,
right.
set it here. So you can get a better view of the underneath of it and stuff. So this is actually the gas tank like you were saying before, and I mean that's some solid old school steel right there. So you can see kind of why you're changing it out, and then we'll show you the new pieces.
Just to show you, this is what we're replacing that with. As you notice, now this area is all open, and it'll make it so we can tuck air conditioning up underneath here and a heater and keep everything out of the way. Then we have the opportunity to build whatever kind of dash we want to put in here. We haven't decided yet. We may do a later 30s type dash. We may do a 44. I've got some 44 dashes.
Or a custom
We
dash.
may do something like that. We may build something for it. We haven't decided what we're going to do yet. But
And with this, it's kind of hard to weld bracketry onto because you don't want to, blow yourself in the car up.
And if you look, this takes up a lot of space where this is all empty. So if we were to put AC and heat and stuff in this, it'd all be hanging way down into the passenger compartment and interrupt your foot and that kind of stuff. So it gives you a lot more room, a lot more space here to work with. So
And this car looks big, but honestly, when him and I are in it,
They're not.
And we're fairly tiny gentlemen. We aren't exactly monsters, but
if you look, that
there's no
really
room.
opens the front of the car up. You can see right down in now to the floor. This will come out next week. We'll pull this once we get the new one, and then we'll replace it. If you can notice, there's just a little hump right here that gives you a little bit of space. Well, when you're using something like a Hemi, it's a big motor, so it's going to end up coming way back here. So the new one we got actually curves in 4 inches and then comes back out and over. And it was hitting the distributor on the Hemi, so that'll give us all kinds of room to get it back in where it's supposed to be. So
yeah, and we actually carry the company we got it from. They're called Direct Sheet Metal. They have all kinds of stuff for Model A's, 32 Fords. They're an older company. They've been around for a long time, and they make great parts.
you can see where the bolts were that we were taking out. They had plenty of bolts there to make sure, and then there's some that went up on here. They were ensuring it wasn't going anywhere. It was bolted in and bolted in tight. So we'll have to get some There's a new piece here. Since when we took out that gas tank, this whole section of the firewall left. The new piece will just fill this void right here. So we'll try and just test fit this quick and see if it's gonna work the way we hope it does.
Okay, this isn't like movie magic. This is legitimately the first time we've ever tried this on, and it fits perfect.
Yeah, this is, wow, yep, that should look pretty good. We may have to tweak it a little bit and get it back in there a little bit, but
tap it back in some.
it's gonna,
oh, that fits nice.
Yeah.
All right, grab the welder. Let's weld her on.
There, it's lined up. If you look, one nice thing, you want these lines to be perfect because the hood side will go into this inset and the hood fits right here. So these have to be just about perfect so that you have you can make a nice gap all the way down the side there. We have a tool that we use to set the gaps so that the gaps are perfect. And that's one of the things about building a car. You want the gaps to look right. If one's a 1/16 of an inch and on the other side it's a 1/2 an inch, it looks terrible. So everything's got to be taken. You got to take your time, make sure everything's lined up perfectly. So grab that hood once, Kerry, and just hold it up on here. This is also a new hood top we bought for this. We're going to have to cut it a little bit to make it fit the way it should. But you might want to go up where it goes.
God.
And if you see,
Ooh,
it fits just about perfectly.
I'm going to put the grill shell on.
This is what we want. We'll line everything. We may have to grind a little bit on the hood, whatever, to make everything fit right, but it'll fit perfect when it's done.
Yeah, you actually have to shorten those hoods. Like, I think it's a 1/2 inch or something to make it fit with the 32 grill shell, correct?
They give you a little bit of play so that you can fit everything so it's on there right. So that when we get the new firewall, there's a small piece that goes here and then we'll bolt to the new section of lower firewall. So it should work out pretty good. That's going to look nice. Plus it saves us a bunch of body work.
Yeah. All right, so now since we got something done, let's do the typical hot rod thing. Let's stand back and look at it.
Stand back and look, yeah. Yeah, that's what you want to do. Stand back and look at it.
Yeah, because this is the best part right here.
Yep, I like it.
Because now we can stand here and you can kind of see how it looks now and how it's kind of coming along. It does look good.
Yeah, it is going to look nice. This bolts on with 3 bolts. There's 3 bolts inside here. What we're going to do is I'm going to take these off. The next time you see these will actually be in primer because they're really super nice shape. So what I'll do is we'll unbolt them. We have a big blasting cabinet. We'll take them over the blasting cabinet. We'll blast them inside and out. And then we'll bolt them back on. That way we got a good look of how it's all going to look when it's together. The nice thing about this stuff too is Malays are super easy to do, and I'm going to actually paint, we'll paint everything inside. All these, like you see rust in that support going up the side there, all that'll be sandblasted. If there's areas that need new metal in them, we'll replace the sheet metal in it. And everything will be like new. It'll all be painted inside and all completely done. So when it's finished, it'll be just like driving a brand new car. So
I'm going to do extra bracing throughout the car and stuff to make sure it doesn't rattle on us and, you know, make sure we get a nice quiet ride.
But if you want to start on a project, these are still fairly inexpensive. You can still buy them reasonably cheap. These are a great car to start with if you want to start with something like this. They're
cool.
They're
cool
easy to upholster. There's nothing fancy about them. They're just an old car that can easily be redone. This car's got wooden framework inside. They even make all new wood for it. You can get about everything for these cars.
So it came with an accessory tool set. So it's literally like 5 wrenches or something like that and a pipe wrench, and you could disassemble the entire car. They're that simple. Because so we're going to try and adjust the body because like I said before, we're going to do the floor panels, but we have to square up the body and everything on the chassis before we do that. So I need to get in there somehow. You're gonna see my big butt crawl underneath and try and get in there to cut that stuff.
Well, and you got to remember, this was a custom built chassis. It's made to fit a full fendered Model A Ford, but it's got coil-over suspension that a Model A never had. A Model A had a spring that went side to side and went up in the frame. This is a completely different design, and the Model A subrails need to be trimmed just a little bit to give us enough room to move the body back and forth. Before you start welding, it's always good to measure everything. I want to make sure that the floor is going to go in and just drop in like it's supposed to. You don't have to pound it and beat it into submission.
So something we just noticed, because Pops is over there sitting taking a break, he just noticed that this quarter patch panel that we said, we were actually going to leave this in because this is actually fairly well done, but we noticed that it's about a 1/2 inch off from the quarter. So like here's the end of the quarter where it should be. This is where it is. So it's, you know, that much of a difference. So we're actually gonna have to cut this out, and I mean, this is an easy piece to make. We're probably gonna remake these too, because there is a huge gap in there that's just way too big. So we'll probably remake these, and I want to put some nice bead rolls and stuff in them, and we can even make them about 1/2 inch deeper too. I was looking at that earlier. The only problem with that is you might not be able to have the back windows roll down all the way, but I might have a fix for that. All right, so I'm kind of looking at this, trying to prep myself to get in there because I'm not quite as limber and spry and as athletic as I once was. So I was going to go under, but I think it's going to be easier to go up and in because I'll be able to stand up. So, all right, let's see if we can do this. That was a lot easier than I thought.
Maybe for you, not the car.
I'm in. That was pretty easy. So I went in the building and grabbed this. This is one of our welding blankets we offer at Summit. It's like a carbon fiber fleece. It's actually really nice. But I grabbed it because Princess doesn't want his freshly powder coated rear end and chrome coilover shocks getting messed up, which I don't really blame him for. So
That's usually Kerry's little blinky out here when he lays down, takes his nap. He covers up with that.
yeah. Terrence, you want to get on the jack?
Is it up and off?
Yeah, that should be good for me to cut. So now what we're going to do, because it wasn't quite wide enough to fit down in the new chassis, on the new chassis, we got to cut right here and here, and then we're going to cut right along here to kind of section that little piece out so we can get it to fit correctly and fit down in so we can square everything up. So I'm going to cut it. Make sure you wear gloves, eye protection. All right, so the reason we cut those out is so when we let it down, it can go on these body pads. When it wasn't cut out, it was getting stuck here and back here on the coils. So now that we got cut it out, Pops, go ahead and lower it down and make sure she fits. So you can see where we cut it out here. Now it fits right down, fits perfect. So now we have that nice little gap here, same gap here, and now all of our subframe rail is all on the actual frame. So this is kind of what holds the body up. So now we can start doing our final measurements, making sure everything is kind of square, and then start putting in the cross braces for the floor panels themselves. And this is what I was talking about. I'm going to have to make something, you know, kind of come up and over to sit over top of this whole section here so it doesn't hit. And because originally that just had kind of a flat floor with a little hump in it for the rear end, so when the rear end bounced up it wouldn't hit and stuff. So another reason we cut all that out is so we can move the body around, because this is where the cross braces for the floor go, in these little like tab areas, and we needed to get these body mount holes or the bolt holes to line up in the center of them correctly. So we got these ones lining up. These ones are lining up a lot better.
This is one of the cross braces that goes across there. It'll have to be trimmed, but it fits in those little cutouts there and then goes across. The floors in the original cars were wood. You wouldn't be using sheet metal. They just had wood that went across, which worked for what there was in those days. But we like to put sheet metal in. It makes the car much sturdier, gives it a lot more integrity to the body. So we use sheet metal. This stuff can all be bought through Direct Sheet Metal, who we carry at Summit Racing. So
they go underneath the cross braces like that, underneath the frame rail,
the
sub rails to hold the floor. And then the floor panel, or the floor pans will actually fit right down in here. And then you can either bolt them in or weld them in. Not sure what we're going to do yet. I want to weld them in. I think he wants to bolt them in. So I'll probably win, and we'll probably weld them in.
as you can see, this is too long. So this has to be trimmed so it fits over here properly, but that's not a big deal. I'd rather trim it than have it not fit properly. Yeah. And then there's actually, on Model A's, they used wood underneath. So
taking it out?
Once the body was down, there was actually wood that would fit in the end there on that slot. Then a bolt would go through there, through the wood and down to the frame, and that's what held it all in. Today you use rubber body mounts, which are much nicer, but we actually have a wood kit that we're going to use. So,
and then when you put the wood floor in, you would drill through here and then just put a screw or a nut and bolt through here, you know, in a couple spots, and that held your wood down, wood floor
that held
down.
the wood. Sheet metal's a lot nicer. It gives you a much better fit. On these, there's going to be a little patch that goes up in the front. It's called a toe board. If you notice, there's this piece that's cut off on this side. We aren't going to use that. This will go straight up and the floor will attach directly to the firewall. So these aren't going to be needed because that firewall is going to be further inside the car. So these down strips will be eliminated. These came all the way down here and would meet the sub rail here at the back, but we're not going to use those.
If anything, what I might do is I might make use this kind of stuff, a 1x1, and make a nice little brace there just for extra security and, you know, just for extra precaution, I guess.
Well, we'll probably cut it right about here and have it come fit underneath here and make sure we have it where we want it. And we can make some adjustments in it once we get it all set together. You could actually assemble these subframes of the car, of the actual body, and then start assembling the body onto the subframes. So Model A's were kind of cool. They were actually like putting a model kit together almost. They were that simple. So everything just kind of bolted together, and it's just a nice, easy way of doing it. So.
And if you don't know, when we get into the motor and stuff, doing the motor, I'll bring the original motor over, and it's a 4-cylinder. So back in the day, they were kind of nicknamed the 4-banger, just because that's what you call them. So if you hear us refer to the 4-banger, that's the original Model A Ford 4-cylinder motor. So I got to show you this because we just pushed it forwards and it's sitting right. One of my all-time favorite things about Model A's is I absolutely love this on Model A's. he wanted to put a 32 Ford gas tank on it, which the Deuce gas tank, you know, comes off here and it fills up and it comes off the frame rails. I didn't want that because my favorite part about a Model A is when it's full fendered, you can see underneath and you can see the whole rear end on it and the coilovers and the rear discs and stuff. I think that looks so cool. Plus with how the fenders are kind of bobbed down and how it comes up and stuff on the inside, it's just very cool looking, especially when you're following it. And it's, you know, got that sweet rake to it and it just looks so cool to me.
This is actually a frame dimension, and it shows all the measurements to certain body mount holes and everything on a Model A. And this is good for 28 to 31. All the holes were basically in the same position. These are available online, I think, through Westcott.
Yeah, if you go to Westcott.
WestcottsAuto.com.
We're actually going to put this door on. So this door hasn't been cut. Whoever did it didn't cut the door. And this is the door we're going to use. This is one we got with the car. We actually have one new old stock one and one super, super nice original. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut this top of the window frame off so we can put the door on and fit everything up and square the roof, square all the body or the posts and stuff. So what I'm going to do, I measured the other door already. It's 7 inches. So we're going to mark this here at 7. It's 7 inches from this body line to where we need to cut. So we'll mark that, then we'll go over to the other side. Same thing on this side, 7 inches. Now we're ready to cut it, and then we'll throw it on the car and see how it looks. We'll cut it right here, cut all the way through the door, and get her done. There's one side. All right, guys, now that we got this cut off, we should be good to go. We can go throw the door on there. Now, mind you, it wasn't, this cut's pretty good, but they aren't perfectly straight. And for this, they don't need to be because, again, this is just pretty much a scrap door, unfortunately. I'll do something with it out here, but you know, it is what it is. We got 2 brand new doors, so it didn't need to be cut off perfectly. So what we'll do now is I got the hinge pins out already. Now I'll take you over to the car and I'll show you how to put a Model A door on quick. So, all right, so here's what we're gonna do. What you gotta do is you gotta match these hinges. Then there'd be a third up here, obviously, on the top part we cut off. You're gonna take these hinges, match them right there with these. Then you'll take your hinge pins, which I already took out, and somebody else already took out because they aren't supposed to be crooked, but they'll do the trick. Just put the hinge pins down in there. Go ahead and put them in the hole. And because these are bent, this is going to be ugly, but use your trusty house hammer. All right, so now that we got the hinges in, got everything, or the hinge pins in, got it set up, voila. We got a nice little hinge door. Hinge needs adjusted some because it should be fitting up there tight, but obviously it's also only like maybe a third of a door, so there you go, opens up. Oh, here's a cool little thing about Model A's too. This is always one of the other things that I liked a lot. So you know how most door handles turn, like the outside does? See how it turns? And it opens that latch. These are so cool. You would just pull it up. That's how it works. And you can see it. It's literally just this rod. You pull up, it's got like a 90 on it and then a little nub that goes down. And then it just pull up, it pulls that back out. It's that simple. We got some stuff done today. We got the body fitting correctly. We got the body fitting down on the chassis correctly. We got the gas tank section out, made sure that it'll fit. Got everything pretty much prepped for when the new floor comes in, the new firewall comes in.
There's nothing worse, and I'm sure everybody's seen a car going down the street that's going like this, and it was in a wreck and they didn't fix the car the right way. Well, if you put the body on the frame crooked, you're going to get the same effect, and then everything else isn't going to fit the way it's supposed to. So we just want to make sure everything's right. We're building a nice car, and we want to be able to have it dependable where you hop in it and go. Keep watching, and you'll eventually get to see a finished Model A.